I början, jag känner mig jättelycklig att kunna komma hit för att tala lite om survival legacy med er. Tack så mycket, men jag kommer fortsätta på engelska, so I apologize for that. This is a quick overview of what I'd like to talk about. In part, I've just sat in two presentations på svenska that I barely understood at some points, and I knew it would be a lot easier if there was something I could read and then furiously type a couple of key words into Google Translate. So this is my attempt to at least support what I'm saying with something that you can read. So if I get bored, you can just read this. And I know that we're very short on time. I've already wasted about 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I really want to start with, I want to make this an incremental delivery so that we can maximize business value. So I'd like to just start with this. This is the first iteration of what I want to say. So these are the basic micro-techniques that I want to discuss. And when I say micro-technique, I mean little things that you can just start doing now. These are, of course, pretty high-level descriptions of them, so it would probably be a good idea for me in the second iteration to give you at least one concrete piece of advice about how to do each of these things. And then if there's any time left over, I'll talk a little bit more about how really to do that and what it means and how it will help and so on. But what the hell is legacy code? So, Michael Fender's excellent book, Working Effectively with Legacy Code, uses the term or the definition that it's code without unit tests. Of course, the problem there is now we have to have a 37-hour argument about what a unit is in order to agree what a unit test is. I'd like to avoid that problem. Not only that, why does it matter whether the code has unit tests or not? And let's call them micro tests, because we agree that we want those tests to be small, because smaller tests give us more confidence changing code. Aha! There's a clue in that sentence. So legacy code must have something to do with the fear that we have with changing code. Okay, that sounds great. So now we're doing what most programmers should do. We had a name that described the implementation, code without unit tests, and we replaced that with an idea that describes a bit more the purpose, code that we're afraid to change. And I used to use that definition for quite a long time, until it hit me one day. If you're afraid to change it, then throw it away. So why don't you just throw it away? If your legacy code is creating so many problems for you, why don't you just throw it away? Don't do that. And the answer comes very quickly. Well, I don't know about you, I don't know how much money you make, but this code earns us 25.7 million kronor per year. That might not be a lot of money to you, but it's a lot of money to me. I'd like to keep that software. Okay, 25.7 million is also a lot to me. So I guess legacy code is valuable code that we're afraid to change. Profitable code that we're afraid to change. And I think once we put the emphasis back on the profitable and valuable part of the code, then I think we recognize as programmers that we need to treat that code with a lot more respect. Now, I don't mean deference. I don't mean that you do this to code. But what I mean is that it's that kind of respect that you have for the people on the other side of the football field who are trying to score in your net while you're trying to score in theirs. Is that respect that you have for a good adversary. And in a way, I think legacy code feels a little bit like an adversary who's very good at what they do and even finds ways to cheat. And what they're very good at doing is stopping you from changing it. I think the number one thing that legacy code does that it does very well is it's like the world's best football team defense. They stop you from trying to get anything done. And so that's where these ideas come from. So as I say here, I'm not even going to mention the Mikado method, except that I just mentioned the Mikado method. That's all I'm going to say about it. Read the book, it's great. One of the authors is somewhere here in this building, and maybe even somewhere here in this room. Not me. So here are the 5 tips, the 5 very specific techniques that I want to talk about. One is to start with undo and invest as much time as it takes to do undo properly. So one of the simplest things that you can do before you try to change anything, or write anything, or produce anything, before I try to do that, the first thing I want to know is how do I throw it away and go back to the way things were before? Because if I make a mistake, I want to be able to get rid of that mistake as quickly as possible. I want to be able to bury all evidence that I made a mistake, and I want to get rid of all disruption that I created when I made the mistake. And when you work with legacy code, the first thing you have to understand is that you will not only make mistakes, but you are forced to make mistakes. Because legacy code is a mess, and you have no idea what it means to change it. You change something over here, and a bomb explodes in the next building. That's legacy code. And so not only are you going to be making mistakes, but you're going to be forced to make mistakes, because if you could change it without making mistakes, it wouldn't be legacy code. And so it's even more important than it would be in a situation where you're producing new work, and you want to be able to undo. The better undo you have, the less fear you have of changing something. This relates to a concept in risk management. If you read any book on risk management, one of the first things you will learn is this whole, first you have to come up with a list of risks. So you have some kind of brainstorming session. Except, of course, now we know that brainstorming doesn't work, so you do something else to try to generate ideas for risks. And after you have a list of risks, the next thing the book tells you to do is to estimate the likelihood that the risk becomes a problem. Right? A risk is a problem that has not happened yet, and a problem is a risk that has happened. So you estimate the probability that this risk is going to become a problem. And the next thing you do is you estimate the cost when the risk becomes a problem. Now you have a bunch of risks. You have probability of failure. You have cost of failure. Obviously, these two sets of numbers need to go together somehow. So you do the dot product of the whole of these two nice vectors. You multiply probability by cost, probability by cost, probability by cost. Add it all together. And at the bottom, you have a big number. And that big number is called exposure. What that really means is this is how much the insurance policy needs to be worth in order for you to continue the project. So if at the end you see the big number says 20 million kroner, then you better have either 20 million kroner in the bank to pay for wiping the evidence of that project from the face of the earth, or an insurance policy that will pay out 20 million kroner. And if you don't have those things, then you are gambling. Good luck. And so undo has this wonderful property. It helps us with a bug that we have in our brains. So when I talk to you about assessing risk by multiplying the probability of failure by the cost of failure, if you want to reduce your exposure, then clearly what you should do is focus on reducing the probability of failure. This is what waterfall people do. I'm not here to say bad things about waterfall people. I'm here to say that waterfall, in one way, is a worldview that says that to manage risks, we want to reduce the probability of failure. And one of the ways that we do that is by thinking very, very hard about what we intend to do, arguing a lot about it, figuring out all the details before we start, so that we figure out all the mistakes in advance, and then we simply don't make them. For some people, I assume it works. It doesn't work for me. An agilist notices that there are two terms to this part of the cost of the exposure. That it's not just the probability of failure, but also the cost of failure. And so we say, how about, instead of trying to reduce the probability of failure, let's reduce the cost of failure. The product of the two will still be lower. And the good news is that it's usually easier to reduce the cost of failure than it is to reduce the probability of failure. We don't have to be quite so smart, and we don't have to be quite so, we don't have to have the ability to tell the future. We just have to have the ability to back up and try again. And so one of the easiest ways to lower the cost of failure is by having undo. And one of the simplest ways to have undo is to simply take a snapshot of what you did and store it off to the side, or what you had, I should say. Take a snapshot of what you have, store it off to the side, try something, and if you don't like the result, put the snapshot back. That is what version control does. And it's very basic. That is what version control does. Now, the problem with legacy code is that legacy code also usually lives in a legacy environment, where taking a snapshot of the world is a little bit more difficult than simply creating an archive of a directory of files on a file system somewhere. Because you have databases, you have other data stores, and the values in those data stores might be changing so rapidly that you can't really take a snapshot. So the problem is that you have to get as close to that as you possibly can. The good news is that the more effort you put into undo, the more safely you can move forward. The bad news is that it's a lot of work in some cases. And some of it is not hard work, it's just tedious work or annoying work. And that's why I say invest as much as it takes. Never underestimate the power of undo. Back in the old days, all the stuff we did with computers worked on the confirm principle. I want to do this. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes. Windows still works this way. If someone keeps asking me if I'm sure I want to do something, then over time they're just training me not to do it. The undo culture says, it's okay, I got your back. Try it and you'll be fine. If you make a mistake, Command Z is easy to hit. Just keep hitting Command Z until you're back to, until you feel better. So when working with legacy code, that is probably the single most powerful technique that you can use. And it's as simple as picking a part of your development source and typing git init and having a brand new repository there where you can take snapshots of what you're doing and roll back when you make a mistake. Even if it's slow and painful and makes you cry. I do video editing for my online training. So I work with ScreenFlow, which creates these big packages of huge files with lots of raw video. Gigabytes and gigabytes of size. One of my training videos is over 22 gigabytes of video, plus all the metadata for editing. Now when I do git add on that video, I grab coffee. It takes 4 or 5 minutes. And then when I commit, it takes 4 or 5 minutes. And then I edit video for 10 or 15 minutes. And then I commit my changes, and it takes 3 or 4 minutes, depending on what I've done. Sometimes it's 15 seconds if I've just made a small change. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. And I do it anyway. Why? Because we all know that feeling of doing stuff and getting on a roll and getting momentum and then making a mistake. And going, oh shit. And then asking the question, how much of this do I have to throw away? Please tell me I don't have to throw away all the editing I've done since 10 o'clock this morning. I think it's worth investing an extra 30 minutes throughout the day to ensure that when we throw away work, we only have to throw away 10 minutes of work and not 4 hours of work, or 2 weeks of work, or 2 years of work. I've already talked about this too much. I'm a programmer, what can I do? So I want to make sure at least to get through the rest. I think this says more than anything else that if you, every professor at the beginning of a course tells you the one thing that you have to, that you really should pay attention to, and the rest is just details. I think this, why I put it first, is really the only thing you have to worry about. Everything else is details. In fact, this, starting with undo, is what makes the rest of this work well. So if you do nothing else in your legacy code, sit down and take the 4 weeks it might take to figure out how in the hell you're going to take a snapshot of all this crazy stuff you have in your legacy system. And with any luck, it's just git init on this part of the file system. It probably isn't. If it were, it wouldn't be a legacy system. So now let's take a look at the rest of it. Reserve capacity, schedule the work, set a timer, and start anywhere. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when working with legacy code is because the system is so complicated, because the design is so terrible, because the system is so poorly understood, because we don't know what it should do. We don't even know what the right answers are supposed to be. We see that it's going to take 27 years to fix the system. Well, let's ignore that part for a moment. It's true. It probably will take 27 years to fix the system, which is why we don't try to fix the system. We try to take steps. But we see that it's going to take 27 years to fix the system, so we think now we have a prioritization problem. If I could just figure out the most valuable thing to fix first, then I would start there. Well, the bad news is, if you knew what that was, it wouldn't be a legacy system. Part of the problem is that this discourages people from simply starting, because they are terrified. They know it's going to cost a lot to try to improve a legacy system. And so they're terrified of starting in the wrong place. They are absolutely terrified that they're going to waste their effort and start in the wrong place. So allow me to liberate you, if I might. There is no such thing as a good place to start in rescuing a legacy system. You can't know what it is even if it existed. Because if you could know what it was, it wouldn't be a legacy system. So the good news is there's no good place to start. The bad news is there's no good place to start. The good news is there's no good place to start. So just start. Literally all you need to do, instead of this is one area, by the way, where I think, I'll just jump here very quickly. This is one area where even we agilists recognize that trying to maximize value is a losing game. This is one area where even we recognize that this is where we simply have to control cost and hope for the best. If you have no idea what the return will be on an investment, but you just know that it's a good investment, your buddy told you it was, but you have no idea what the actual return on investment will be. It could be plus 137% over a year, it could be plus 12% over a year, it could be minus 73%. I've had a few of those. What do? I mean, the stock market is this insane place where nobody knows anything, nothing has any logic to it, and yet people make money at it. How? One of the ways they do it is by noticing that if value is uncertain, then limit the exposure of your investment. And the way that we do that as programmers working on legacy code is to simply say, I think I have an hour and a half to try to hammer on some legacy code today. Let me sit down, find a nice quiet place, make some coffee, maybe something a little stronger would be a good idea, start a timer, and go. Now if I have an hour and 30 minutes, then I might set my timer for an hour and 20 minutes, and at the time, and just play. Try to improve things. Use all the really simple techniques that we know for improving design. Go back to Kent Beck's rules for simple design. Remove duplication and improve names. Remove duplication and improve names. And see where we end up. And at the end of an hour and 20 minutes, the timer goes woo, and then we stop. The most important skill I think a programmer can learn is when the timer makes a sound, lift the hands off the keyboard immediately. And then take the next 10 minutes and answer the key question, do I want to keep this? What did I learn, and do I want to keep this? Those are the two key questions. And if you don't want to keep it, if the code really isn't much better than it was an hour and a half ago, then throw it away and try again later. What you learn during that hour and 20 minutes of practice matters a hell of a lot more than the changes to the code. And what happens over time is you start to get to know the code a little bit better. And then you find that you can get farther in an hour and 20 minutes, or in 40 minutes, or in 20 minutes, however long you want to work. And you start to notice after a few weeks that you actually keep some of those changes. You don't throw them all away. Avoiding feeling guilt when you throw changes, when you throw work away is another skill that I think we programmers need to learn. One of the consequences of the whole the talk that I just attended about motivating work, the appreciative inquiry approach, is that we focus on what's going well and we try to get more of it. Well, I think we need to apply the same principle when we work in legacy systems. We need to stop feeling guilty for how bad it is. It's bad. We know it's bad. We all agree it's bad. Let's stop feeling guilty for how bad it is and how slow we are at making it better. And let's look at how we are making it better and feel good about that. And I find that simply starting somewhere and doing it makes a big difference here. Now, it's very easy, whenever somebody talks about Slack, it's very easy to fall into the trap of getting busy and then deciding we don't need to work on legacy code this week. And pretty soon, you don't do it at all. And the one thing we know for sure about legacy code is that if you don't actively make it better every week, then it gets worse every week. And so that's why it's important to reserve capacity and schedule the work. Make an appointment with yourself, with your calendar. Wednesday afternoon is legacy day. And it's this very strange thing that happens that when you actually put that appointment on your calendar, you're more likely to keep it than if you just say, oh, I spend Wednesday afternoons doing legacy code. Oh, except this Wednesday because we have this really important meeting that was scheduled without my permission. I want to talk, I'm not going to worry about subclass that test. By the way, I'm going to publish these notes, so you don't have to furiously scribble things down. I should have said that 20 minutes ago. I wanted to get the most important thing out first, so.
You can't undo that.
I can't undo that, that's true. This to me, for code, this is the key technique. This is a good one, this is the better one. So for code, and this is where I'll spend the last few minutes, maybe the single most important technique that we can use when we're actually in the code is to extract pure functions. Now, if you're wondering what a pure function is, it's a function where I can determine the outputs just by looking at the inputs. I don't have to worry about the state of the system somehow changing the behavior of that function over time. And so extracting pure functions has the consequence. I like to call this the killer technique for refactoring, in part because it is the quickest path to the most information about how terrible the code is, and not just level of terrible, but shape, color, and texture of terrible. You really get to know how bad things are and in what way they're bad. But it's also a killer technique in that it will kill the program. Because you are absolutely forced to confront every last detail of how bad that part of the code is, all of them. You'll see this 137-line function, and you'll extract pure functions for parts of it. And those pure functions will have 12 arguments. This one will have 12, that one will have 16, that one will have 9. The return values will be this ridiculous collection of things that you don't understand how they possibly fit together. But the good news is, now you can test it. All you have to do is open up the spreadsheet, put all the input fields the input values and the expected output values, crank through the 1.78 million permutations of all of those, and fill in the expected results. How hard is that? It might take you a few weeks, but you'll do it. So that's the killer part. The killer part is that you will be forced to confront absolutely everything that's terrible about that code all in one place. That's why it's probably a good idea to do this. It's probably a good idea to both be prepared to throw that work away and try again when you have more energy, more stamina, and the brain is doing better. And why you need to just carve out some time in your schedule and start working. Because the one thing about extract pure functions that makes it maybe the most difficult technique to use for actually refactoring code is that when you take a bite out of the code, you have no idea how much you have bitten until you started chewing. Once you actually extract the function and see there's 23 arguments to it, and 17 of them all have the same word in the title, in the name, sorry, then you look at it and go, oh my god, that's going to take 4 hours to really pound in shape. Well, I guess I will start now and set the timer for 30 minutes and see how far I get. So that's pretty much my time. I would like to mention, just make sure this timer doesn't make noise. I would like to mention that You can find me at jbrains.ca, that's for Canada. You can find me on Twitter as jbrains, J-B-R-A-I-N-S. And I strongly recommend that you keep an eye out for online-training.jbrains.ca, where I'll be publishing my course, Surviving Legacy Code, sometime in early 2017. If you want to actually try to take the course while I'm producing it, and have the patience to not have all the content up front before you sign up, let me know and I might be able to help you out. I would love to answer your questions this afternoon and over lunch and all that stuff and get to the things that I didn't get to say this time. Thanks very much for your time and attention. I think we're almost ready for lunch now.